Hi, Enthusiastic Steve again, and welcome back to my little bit untidy shack desk here. Today I wanted to introduce you to a radio that was around about a decade ago. It's quite an unusual radio, don't see many of them around. You may have some yourself or similar radios. This is the Maxlog M-8800 10 meter radio, capable of 12 and 11 meters. Very good radio, not a spoiler alert because it's got a dark side. This is the radio we'll be talking about. You may recognise it in other forms such as the Magnum 1, etc. Let's take a look at it. Let's see the good points and some bad points. When you receive this radio and take it out of the box and plug it in for the first time, it is set to the 10 meter band. It will cover 28 megs up to 29.7. But don't despair if you're looking to use this radio outside of those frequencies. It is as simple as turning the radio off, holding down the Roger beep key. Yes, it has a Roger beep key. Turn the radio back on and it will give you some options to pick different bands 1 to 4. Now, on the box of the radio, it's actually advertised that you using a PC program, which we'll come to later, you can actually expand the frequency coverage from 25.6 right the way up to 30.1 megahertz. In reality, as this is a version 8 radio, it can extend down to 24 megahertz and cover the whole 12 meter band. So we're getting the 12 meter band, the 10 meter band, and of course we're getting the whole coverage of the 11 meter band for those who wish to use it and where it's legal to do so. Now, for frequency adjustment, it is fully adjustable right down to 10 kilohertz, which is choosable from the front panel. Now, power output wise, they're quoting from the front box again and the manual that on AM, on CW, yes, you've got a CW key at the back, it does 12 watts. FM, upper and lower sidebands, you're expecting maybe up to 40 watts. I say expecting, that's what it says on the box, and I'll explain that in a little while. Now, one of the big plus points of this radio, and which makes it stand out from some others on the market, is it's advertised as having a TCXO high frequency stability, and it does. This radio has a very, very little drift. It's hardly measurable, and even from cold, it's stable, very, very stable. Now, the transmit power, let's just revisit that one. I said on the box, it says quite clearly, it says 12 watts AM and CW, FM upper and lower sideband 40 watts. Now, on FM, that should be continuous carrier, key up, and you should get the 40 watt output at everything turned up to max. And upper and lower sideband, of course, I would expect that to be peak power, not average power. So that's with a good one, say good strong kilohertz, 1 kilohertz tone going into the mic, you should get a 40 watt on the reading on a PEP meter. And the, let's just say, the manual clearly states for safety things that the radio should never be operated above or beyond 13.8 volts. Pretty standard from a transformer. And if you're running at 13.8 volts, you should see these actual measurements. I then ignored the manual and very steadily went up to just over 14 volts. And I was up to about 14.4, 14.5 volts before I could get a peak of the claimed 40 watts on FM and sideband. AM wasn't a problem. AM was actually 12 watts even at 12 volts. So that one seemed to work fine. It was just the FM and upper and lower sidebands. Now, I wouldn't recommend running your radio at 14.5 volts continuously. I wouldn't recommend running the radio at its max anyway. I would always turn the radio down. 30 watts is more than enough. 20 to 25 watts will get you around the world. And as I've proven with my M6 license, 10 watts will get me down to Australia. So why run more power? So let's take a quick look at the actual output of this radio. You can see in the screen, the lower there, you've got the power supply. It's currently drawing around about or just under 2 amps of power on literally everything lit up, with everything running, ready to go. and it's connected through the meter into a dummy load. Strangely, the dummy load's not given a perfect one-to-one match. I don't know why that is at the moment, but it's fairly close. It might be just the meters might be just slightly off. Anyway, it's on AM. Let's see what we're actually getting. There we go, about 12.5, 12.6 actual watts coming out, which is what it says on the actual box. Now on FM, we're going to get, there you go, about 29, nearly 30 watts, dropping off a little bit as it's warming up. But yeah, that'll settle in a minute. So high end of 20s, 28 to 30 watts, depending on the power supply. And you can see there it's drawing a lot more current. Now on sideband, this is not a peak meter, so I'm going to whistle it up, unfortunately. Apologies for the whistles, fingers and ears, but hopefully we'll try and get around about 30 watts. There we go, 30 watts. Now you already noticed by looking at the radio, it looks slightly different to standard radios. It's got a dual display. Now some people like this, some people don't. Some people say it looks like a radio wearing sunglasses and then a big nose at the front. I personally quite like the looks of this radio. Then again, I used to like the Cobra LX29, I believe it was, one of the versions which had a very similar wide display. Now, it's a good radio. Now, I'm not going to actually go through and explain every single knob and control on this radio. It's pretty standard, really. AM, FM, CW, upper, lower sideband. You've got a clarify, you've got a control knob in the middle, you've got echo facility if you're into that, you've got a Roger beep if you're into that, you've got an emergency channel, you've got quite an effective noise blanker and a very effective high cut switch. Now, there are some strange anomalies with this radio. The strange anomalies are, number one, it says on the box this is PC programmable. Well, there's a little plug-in at the back. If you can put a cable in there and plug it to your computer. Number one, where's the software? Now, the software is available for other versions, but as yet, I've been unable to source anything that works on version 8. Also, I've been told that the rear socket for the programming cable does not actually work on version 8. You have to go in and actually attach a cable directly to the board. So that could become difficult. Good news is all the frequencies, if you take the time to do it, you can program all the channels from the front panel. And I have started doing that, and it takes hours, but you can program it all from the front. So you don't really need the cable as such. But there are a few options that you do need that for. One of the big annoyances of this radio, another one, is the fact it's got a talkback facility. That's just great if you want to hear your own voice, but you want to turn it off. And you can turn it off on the front menus via the function button. You can go into the menu system, turn off the talkback volume to 0 or even to off. But guess what? You can talk on that microphone and you hear, sounds like a mouse scraping at the loudspeaker underneath the actual radio. You can still hear a little bit of talkback. Now, I've got used to that after just a few days. It's not affecting my audio going out. It is hardly noticeable, but it is there. So that's just another thing you can be aware of. Only happens on version 8. So another little annoyance is for the 11 meter band users, sometimes the channel spacings, there's a gap and you need to go up 10 kilohertz. And you can do that by the VFO knob, or on this one, conveniently, as like many other 11 meter radios, you've got a plus 10 kilohertz button. You press that and the radio should go up 10 kilohertz. Guess what? This one only goes up 1 kilohertz. Strange, but true. So like I say, this radio has a bit of a dark side, as in not everything works as it should. And I would have liked to thought that there's other software out there. The version 9, I believe, does fix many of these problems. You know, you can actually physically go into the menu and turn off the talkback facility completely. And there's a few other little fixes as well. But let's just forget those at the moment, because overall, the looks I love. The actual capability of the radio is really good. And as a radio, what saves it is the fact it does have very good receive. It does have very clear transmit. And already I've had some very clear and very good reports coming back from those I've spoken to on it, on all the bands. So just before we listen to it on air, let's take a quick look at the rear of the radio and the heatsink. A radio of this capability does need a very substantial heatsink, and this one, I'm pleased to say, does come with one. The standard microphone it comes with the radio is a condenser microphone and is very good at what it does. It has channel up-down buttons on the top and an automatic squelch button. The supplied manual gives you some detail, but there is a lot of missing information. For example, the channel knob. You can select channels A, B, C, D, E, F. But if you select F and go to change the VFO, nothing actually happens. When I say nothing happens, the frequency display does change, but the channels don't. This is because channel F is a rear phone mode, and it doesn't say this in the manual. You can also just change through the frequencies using the clarifier. So the clarifier is a second VFO. So again, thank you very much from Enthusiastic Steve for watching the video. I'm going to leave you with some video clips of audio coming through the Maxlog 8800. Unfortunately, they're on the 11 meter band, not just only. I couldn't get any activity when I was recording this on the 10 or 12 meter bands. The bands were completely quiet. But you will hear how good the audio is on FM on the this radio. It's cracking. I will do a quick comparison as well if you on the video, comparing the Midland home base, which is in the background there, which is a very nice home base radio for 11 meters. The audio quality on that compared to the Maxlog, and unfortunately I don't like to say it, but the Maxlog beats it hands down. Very nice radio. You'll hear the clunking of my antenna switch and switching between the Midlands and the Maxlog. Again, thank you very much indeed for watching my video. Please subscribe if you've not subscribed already. Please share my videos, and again, the more my subscribers are steadily climbing, so the more I get, the better it is for my channel, etc., and the more YouTube shares it gets, etc. So thank you very much 73s. This has been Enthusiastic Steve saying all the best. See you again soon.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Yeah, got a dear idea I heard today. Yeah, I'm just gonna get myself some coffee and my little play later on. I found a little 2 meter radio I want to try out. It's brand new. It's this Chinese thing. I've got to get on the internet sometime and find some info on it. I did have a book somewhere. There's a Chinese one, Chinese English, you know. Yeah, it's a little Bei Joey sort of something. Yeah, B-A-I-E-J, I-E, something like that. BJ218, whatever that is.
Authorities got to hear that foxes were wandering in and out of the place, that they had to shut us down. So there was warnings not to feed the foxes and not encourage them to come in.
I was scared to dodge them again if I go out. But at least the temperatures are getting up. You know, you don't go out and you freeze after death before you get out, you know, 2 steps outside the door. So that's good. I just don't like the cold. And I'm older than you, so I'm allowed to moan about it.